5:35. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleur? Here. Councilmember Collings?
Here.
Councilmember Stearns?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Redmond?
Here.
Mayor Sakla?
Here. All right, moving right along into special presentations. We have none today. Agenda item number 4 is public comment. Those in the audience, we have 4 at the given time. You are free to comment on items either in the consent agenda or not on the agenda at all. Would anyone like to speak in the audience? Come on up, Nyan. State your name and city of residence.
Hey guys, Nyan Shepherd, Mount Shasta. How we all doing? You guys all know me. I came here to tell you my car drove me all the way here today without any interventions at all. It parked itself. And just last week I went to Reno. My car drove me the whole way there and back with several days of driving around the city with 0 interventions. Pretty impressive. I know you guys are thinking like, why did you come here to brag about your car? Todd can relate. Self-driving car technology is going exponentially fast. Just this last week, I attended the community focus group on the one-way streets as well as the parking changes in the greenways, bike lanes, etc. I just wanted to give you guys some feedback about the parking things that you guys are considering. So the reason why I started off with talking about how my car can drive itself with no interventions, later this year Tesla is announcing a robo-taxi. And what that is it's a car with no steering wheel, no pedals, no nothing. It completely drives 100% autonomously. You can hop in, hop out, and it'll be pennies on the dollar per mile. Comparing that to car ownership, it's not gonna make sense to own a car in 5 years' time. So I know the timelines, a lot of the infrastructure changes that you want to do around parking, it seems like it takes precedence. But I want you guys to take it into strong consideration that full self-driving automobiles and automobiles without drivers at all are the future, and they'll be here sooner than you think. So I want to make sure that you guys are taking that into consideration. So before you spend all the city coffers on paving paradise and putting in a parking lot, consider that, pretty soon your car will drive you to your destination and then go take somebody else for a spin or drive back to your house or a faraway parking spot where it's out of the way. So parking in the future is not going to be as much of an issue as it is today. So I'd say a big yield sign on the parking changes, but a green light and a full gas pedal on one-way streets. That is definitely the way to go. And I would say accelerate, keep moving. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nyan. All right, we have some newcomers in the audience. Would anyone like to come and speak during this public speaking session? Sure, as long as it's not an agenda item. So go ahead, name and city, please.
Yep, I can introduce him. This is Leo DePaula, who's our new building inspector. Jeff Mitchum thought it would be a good idea to bring him to council and introduce himself, and for you guys, if you want, to ask him questions.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Okay. My name is Leo DePaula. I actually am the owner of Development Compliance Solutions. We're based out of Chico, so Northern California company. I wanted to say thank you very much for the award of the contract to support the Community Development Department, and we look forward to working with the community and yourselves to create a safe and healthy built environment with as little pain as possible to the constituency. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have anything, and if not, I would say thank you very much once again. Hope to see you around town.
No questions right now? Well, thank you for joining the team. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate the opportunity.
Look forward to meeting you personally.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Others in the audience who would like to speak during this agenda item? I guess not. Then over to hands raised on Zoom. All right. Oh, we do have someone who would like to speak. Message to deliver? I'll give it to the clerk over here. we'll close the public comment. Okay, come on up. State your name and city of residence.
My name is Wayne Kessler, and I live on Cedar Street in Shasta. I am protesting the rate increase.
Good point. Yeah, so that is an agenda item, so that'll have, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you wait? Can you wait for the agenda item later?
Well, anyway, I really can't. I just like this. But I just want to make one statement in the sense that I'm not objecting to the rate increase, but the way it was all handled.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so we will close public comment section to now and move on to council staff comments. We'll start with the city manager. Go ahead, Todd.
Yes. So a couple things. The letter of intent for development was put on hold last week. My contact at Pinsino Holdings, he had eye surgery, and so wasn't able to get to the contract. We're going to get that to us this week, and we'll see how many comments that we need John Kenny to weigh in on, but hopefully we'll have that finally here at the next meeting. What I'd like to announce, good news, is that we were with Siskiyou Economic Development Council actually taking the lead on writing this grant. We received a EPA grant called the Community Change Equitable Resilience Technical Assistance Grant. And so we had a kickoff meeting last week with the team, which was EPA, Eco Northwest, an economics firm out of Portland, and an engineering and design firm. And the EPA's leading this charge, and what this grant will do, and they'll be coming down here on May 15th to visit the site and get some drone footage, is they'll lay out where they think infrastructure should go, elements according to Pinsino Holdings, or we're able to be flexible about the design, and what elements we need as part of technical assistance. This whole time, the EPA, when they're spearheading this work, they've got an eye on the Community Resilient Infrastructure Grant, which provides between $10 and $20 million in infrastructure funding, as long as you have some climate resilient elements like stormwater capture. You create park space, park system internally, which are all seems to be very doable, but they'll guide us in that process. And it really benefits the developer, because if we do this, it's really not going to impact the programming of it. It's just that we have now elements that make us specifically eligible for this big grant. And this technical assistance, we're one of 50 that were awarded nationwide, and the EPA awarded it because they've worked with us on the brownfield cleanup all these years. They know that we deliver. We had a 2-hour kickoff meeting and went into detail. They said they've never had a community that's this prepared, so they're very excited about this. We'll be bringing them out here on the 15th, and we've got our fingers crossed on being able to put infrastructure in by making sure that we meet all the requirements, finish this technical assistance up, and we can then apply. And we basically have to, once we apply for this and we're awarded, we got 3 years to have it built.
So this is a grant for infrastructure on the landing.
Yeah, and what this does, it is for conceptual design, up to 20% drawings. It involves public outreach, so we're getting the input from the community on what they want to see out there. And it's finally wrapping up with, that design work, but also, it's not only the architectural work, it's also the engineering work. and where we would be laying infrastructure out on the site.
Is there a probability or possibility of follow-up funding for infrastructure?
Well, no, if we do the technical assistance grant with the eyes on the EPA are the ones that have this $10 to $20 million infrastructure grant. By having this technical assistance team, we make ourselves excessively competitive here by following their lead, and the fact that we're in the process of forming an EIFD. We have so many things going in our favor, and the fact that they've worked with this team, they know us. It's a brownfield site. We've got a lot of things that really make EPA want to invest here.
Got it.
So I'm really hopeful about this one.
Excellent.
And thank you, SEDC, for taking the initiative to write this grant.
Any more updates, Todd?
Those are the big things. Those are the big things for right now. There's some stuff that's about to pop, but I brought them up a couple times, and I haven't been able to bring them here as quickly as I like, so I'm going to hold my powder on those.
All right, Chief, any updates at this time? Muriel? All right, council members. Start with members to my left. Nope. To the right.
Just to recap the Lola meeting, I think that was in between. We had a great Lola meeting. Tom Hesseldens had a very well-prepared presentation that is kind of the kickoff to the public input portion of the Castle Creek couplets, bike lane, storm drainage, all of it connected project. I believe he is, or may have already done the museum public outreach, or that might be coming up this week, this Wednesday evening, perhaps? Was it last week? Okay.
Last week, yep.
So we will do our best to keep the public informed as there's more and more of that. But all in all, I think it was one of the largest attended Lola meetings we've had. Great city updates from everyone. So success. Thank you to Kathy for all your work.
Okay, well, thanks for that update. So it's one less thing I have to think about, and we will move on. I have nothing to add at this point. Move on to committee updates, if there are any, Todd.
I don't have anything. DEAC met last week, but I was out for medical leave.
Okay.
The beautification committee met last week, so I wanted to update you and let you know that they're doing spring cleanup. This Wednesday, the 24th, between 10 and noon, they will be working at the south entry for cleanup, which is just south of the Opportunity Center. They pick a particular area this time of year, generally on Wednesdays, for a 2-hour cleanup, and over a few weeks they tend to tackle all the little spots in town that need some help and some cleanup, and do a great job. They always need volunteers, so for anybody out there who's listening and would like to go and help with the cleanup at the south entry from 10 to 12, the 24th, that'd be great. Also, the beautification committee has ordered some more trash cans. I don't know if you're familiar with the nice kind of rock-looking trash cans that replace some of the old ones. They did a survey, and all of the other bad ones that are just about ready to fall apart are going to be replaced in the next couple of months, depending on how long it will take the construction of them and for them to be shipped here. So that is in process. That was a planned budget item for the beautification committee. And that's the report for the beautification committee.
Actually, can I add a couple things that just popped into my head? So 2 weeks ago, I spoke at the Chamber of Commerce's annual lunch, and it was I spoke for an hour and 15 minutes, and got some great comments from people in the audience, and it went really well. We had some great feedback from it, and so there's that. The other piece is once we get this LOI tied up, we've been talking to SEDC again, and their program manager, Corey Hayden, who we all know, and Tanya Dowse, believes that they have people lined up for an equity stack to help fund a feasibility study for the landing for the developers, looking at, asking the Ford Foundation for 500, or I'm sorry, for $50,000, and then McConnell Foundation for the same amount, and they've got some local donors that are interested in the process and are willing to stack with that. So we'll be able to help them get off the ground. And that's it.
To the chair. The EDC reached out to me business-wise earlier today, saying, and this probably goes in line with this, that they've acquired a person that looks at, through a grant, that looks at business development as a whole throughout our county. So hopefully they'll have some findings.
And we meet on, the city managers along I-5 meet on Wednesday to go over what we're looking for, each jurisdiction. So yeah, they've been, SEDC, I mean, they deserve a lot of credit, and they really, not that they weren't helpful before, but they've really stepped up. They really have.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Everyone was here on this panel for the 8th, and does anybody want to pull out for further discussion any item here? Maybe such as E, are we good with that report? Okay. All right, consent agenda. The city manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes, April 8th, 2024, regular meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable March 21st, April 4th, April 8th, and April 15th, 2024. Total gross payroll and taxes for periods ending March 17th and March 31st, 2024. C, monthly investment and revenue report. D, second reading and adoption of CCO-24-04, an amendment of City Municipal Code Section 10.44.080, parking restricted. E, Housing Element Annual Progress Report.
I will make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through E by title only.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And aye. Any opposed? All right, we move on to item number 8. Public hearing on stormwater rates pursuant to Proposition 218. City staff will give a verbal report and answer any clarifying questions. The City Council will then hold a public hearing and consider increases to stormwater service charges. Todd, you have the floor.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening, there's a typical 218 process for garbage, water, and sewer. What we're looking at for the drainage impact fee is a modified 218 process. And under a 218 process, when we go out for votes, the money that we ask for, we can only ask for the money it takes for us to deliver this service. In other words, to replace this infrastructure and the staff time to do that, nothing else. I mean, it has to be our actual cost. So you'll see when the ballot goes out, we specifically put on the major projects we're looking at that are, basically crumbling infrastructure or at minimum aging infrastructure, it's really in dire shape. The difference with this process, it's a little convoluted, is that it starts out with a minimum of 45 days notice that there will be a ballot floated for the drainage impact fee. And right after that 45 days commences, which brings us here, is we count protest votes. And what we need, if this was to be a fee that we were not going to pass, we've got to have a majority of the property owners that included in this fee submitting protest votes tonight. Now, after we count ballots, and if we're moving forward with this, we will send out the actual ballot in the mail, and you'll have 45 days to submit that ballot as a yes or a no. And for this to pass, we have to have just over 50% of affected property owners weighing in for the affirmative that they want this fee to be increased. So that's the process. It's a little bit different than typical 218 process, and frankly, the bar's a lot higher.
All right, so I'm going to start with clarifying questions. So the ballot is going to property or parcel owners, not necessarily ratepayers, or all ratepayers?
Anybody that owns property here in the city and has, and anybody in the city. And as I mentioned, when we had our drainage impact fee report, they used very specific aerial imagery that was, very high resolution, and they calculated the percentage of impervious surface and came up with what's called an equivalent residential unit of to meet what we need to meet our infrastructure goals. So there's a flat ERU rate for single-family residences, and if you've got a business with quite a lot of a large land holding with a lot of impervious surface, you're paying more.
Okay, but current ratepayers of water, sewer, garbage also pay a $1 a month for stormwater. So this fee increase will include those people, even if they're renters and don't own property, or does it not? Because I think it does.
Yes, somebody's got to live everywhere here, but we had this discussion of, well, do these ballots go to renters, or does it go to the overarching property owner, and they allow their tenants to vote, and that's where we landed. So it's basically everybody that's in the city. But the thing to remember here, it's a high bar, this is what happens when you have benign neglect and we haven't kept up with the rates that we need to. And this looks like such a heavy lift. And the reason we have a heavy lift is because this fee hasn't been increased since the late 80s. And so we're paying for that failure to bring this need to council. So the rate was much more gradual and incremental.
All right, Councilmember Stearns, did you want to ask a clarifying question?
A couple, yes, thank you. So question number one, following up with the mayor's question. Are you saying that some properties will receive ballots both for the owner and also for the renters? And then will they both be able to vote?
My understanding is both will be able to vote.
Second question.
Wait a minute, I'm actually wrong, and it's one vote per parcel. Yeah.
And how will that be determined? If,
Like say you got a fourplex, that owner of that fourplex, who's really going to be footing that bill and then probably passing that cost onto his or her customers, we'll be paying that. And, and again, it's based on ERUs, equivalent residential units.
So that goes back to the question, ballot going to the property owner?
Property
or
owner.
going to the tenants?
Property owner.
Or both?
Property owner.
Okay,
Yep, so I was wrong on that first part.
all right. Second question. We've received information from Chris Maroney, owns property inside city limits. He's prohibited from participating in the stormwater system. He has property that has a self-contained system. He may not be the only property owner that falls in that category. How does the city exempt those property owners?
We don't. Under a 218 process, if you have drainage infrastructure that needs to be upgraded, we cannot, exempt one parcel no matter what they do on that parcel, because we can't allow an exemption because everybody else will then be picking up the cost of that property that is getting the exemption. And we can't do that under 218.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I may not have all this 100% right.
Yeah, no.
But what I understand is the city asked this property owner to put in a retention pond to facilitate stormwater drainage. Demanded that they do that because we had no stormwater out there at the time. And an increase for stormwater drainage that they're not using because they have their own.
But no, that's not true, though. And when we've got a big rain or snow event, any sheet runoff, because of an impervious surface, ends up into city infrastructure. It doesn't all end up into that retention pond. And so if you're using city services, you need to pay what everybody else pays. And again, this is hypothetical. We don't know if this is even going to pass.
Right.
But, and we can't, just like when we provide water services under 218, there have been a lot of push for lower rates for lower income customers, and that the state of California views that as a no-no because the rest of the folks in the community would then be subsidizing those low income people, and it's not allowed.
To the chair. If we are going to be discussing Mr. Maroney's case in particular, I would most likely need to recuse myself as I professionally represent the current tenant, and it could have a financial impact on him. So if that's going to be further discussed, then I would need to excuse myself.
I mean, I ran this by John Kenny. I mean, if I had a site plan that shows me that he's handling, and he can prove that the drainage plan is handling all the water on site, then I'd have to then see what John Kenny says about whether there's a potential for exempting him.
Okay, so disputes about eligibility to, or exemption from this fee would be something handled after a positive vote for the fee increase.
Yeah.
So this is sort of a warning that he's not interested in paying the fee. I got that.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
More clarifying questions?
Following up with that, what I understand you're saying is that the city can look at exemption, can in fact exempt, has the legal authority to exempt a property owner if the circumstances warrant it. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's, what I'm saying is then I can bring that back to John Kenny to have them rule on it. It would make sense that it could be exempted, but I don't know the ins and outs enough, or, and most people don't have drainage that fully, absorbs all the, the runoff, especially from large storms, onto the site. And if anything's coming from that site that ends up into our system, then they're required to pay under 218.
Could you, in fact, get an opinion from John Kinney in advance of sending this out for, sending the ballots out?
It's going to take him some time to review, but the first thing I need is a site plan that shows me grading and drainage, and I'm satisfied, our building inspector is satisfied, and John is satisfied that, every drop of water that falls on that property is absorbed on that property, and I don't buy it. That would be the case.
I'm not sure I got an answer to the question that
The answer is probably not. I mean, if I get a site plan that's detailed, that shows that they, based on the contours, that the contours are such that they're, say, moving all runoff or any water on that site, even during large storm events, it's in a retaining pond that is not allowing any water to run into our drainage system, city-owned. And if I feel satisfied with that, I will seek an opinion.
So I know up on Spring Hill, there is a sewer line, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no water line for properties up there. Are there storm drainage, is there a storm drainage line, or are there storm drainage lines running up Spring Hill?
Well, obviously rain gutters. I'm just not sure. I don't know
I
for sure.
don't think so.
Yeah.
I think the water just runs down, ends up in a gully.
Yeah, but if you're ending up in a rain gutter, it's just carrying out that along that rain gutter with a minimum of 1% grade to the next, catch basin.
Yeah, I'm not even sure there's rain gutters up there.
Okay.
Well, I'll
So
be
that
there
would-
tomorrow.
To me, that would
but
make a difference.
Okay.
I can't visually see storm drains anywhere on Spring Hill Road at all.
Yeah.
So I think it just runs and then kind of goes to the side at the end of the hill by North Mount Shasta Boulevard, I think. But I'm not 100% positive. Okay, questions, Jeff? You thought you had one more, right? I do. Yep.
City Manager, I received a number of emails that I'm pretty sure you can clarify the answer to, of people who were upset because they thought this increase in the drainage fee was related to the McBride Springs floods that started last year and came through to this year, and that because that problem was outside of the city, although ending up in the city, they were all upset that this drainage fee was to address that problem.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
we have a meeting this week with the county about how we're going to move forward with, drainage into the future. I don't know how receptive. I mean, we did get the county at the table. The HOA, they've got certain responsibilities based on what they signed, signing their rights away when they moved into it, that they're, if there is a catastrophic mudslide, then their HOA needs to take care of it. But then, I don't want to speculate about potential liability, but we also have a number of people before my time who listened to the approval for this subdivision at the Board of Supervisors, and there were a lot of people who spoke and said this doesn't pass the smell test. The idea that you're putting geoblocks up there on top, right above these homes, and it's going to stop a mud flow, you can watch on any YouTube video of a tsunami or a mud flow carrying city buses away. It doesn't smell right. The other piece is the actual architect and engineering firm that actually took this on. Part of this, we don't know where this is going to shake out, and I'm not saying anybody is responsible, but you'd have to think that there may be a case for insurance for that engineer for errors and omissions, because this was not a well thought out plan.
One of the other main themes of people who were upset about this rate increase was, well, why aren't we getting grants? Southern California is asking for drainage grants and they're getting it. Why aren't we going for drainage grants?
I haven't seen anything that will cover this kind of work. I'm always looking. I haven't found it yet. If you've got an idea of a grant we could chase.
Let me
we certainly
interject.
could.
Raftelis did receive or did apply and then was awarded a grant for 1.7 million for planning on this.
Well, yeah, and we did. There are projects that are in the planning and first stage of engineering up to 30% drawings, and yeah, we were awarded that. But actual full reconstruction of drainage infrastructure, I haven't seen anything that's going to pay for that. There may be, and if somebody's got an idea on it, we'll certainly chase it.
Is part of the answer to the question, what about grants, is grants are one-time things?
Correct.
And this is ongoing maintenance for a system that hasn't been dealt with in
That's part of
50
it.
plus years?
But I mean, if we did land a large grant that actually paid for the reconstruction of some of that, that's the bulk of it. We need to build up a reserve and we need to be able to maintain it. And, so we need funds for that. But I mean, if we did get a grant that allowed us to rebuild this infrastructure, that could offset some of this cost.
And just
But again, right now, it doesn't really help us with this vote because it's not like we're going to get a reading on whether or not we get a grant or even necessarily even have it written in the next 45 days.
Thank you. And one last question. Would you say it's fair to say that the people of Mount Shasta are going to pay for stormwater drainage repair one way or another out of the general fund when emergencies and things that simply must be repaired? Where we, if this is not passed, we still have to pay, which means the city out of a different fund. Instead of a fee enterprise fund, it's out of the general fund.
Well, we could either pay to have it fixed one way or another, or let it fail. And when you get to the point of allowing a system to fail, your amount of cost have just exponentially increased over the asking.
And they come from a different fund, correct?
do.
If there's no money in the drainage fund because
Right.
it didn't pass, it's going to come out of the general fund.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost more.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that.
And, people don't enter into a 218 process unless, you have a verifiable need, because the only thing we can ask for is the cost of the projects, the maintenance on it, and building a reserve. That's all we can charge. We can't charge extra and, throw lavish parties. It's not like that.
All right, let's move to a public hearing on this subject. So, public hearing is open on the stormwater rate increase Prop 218 process, and we have some people still here in the audience. Would you like to come up and speak on this subject? Name and, yeah, come on up. You raised your hand? Yep. Name and city of residence?
Good evening, council members, and thanks for your time to hear me out. I won't bore you with all the details of what I've already sent you. I think you have about 50 pages of engineered storm drainage calculations and drawings that are already engineered topographic maps that I've sent to all of you. I think I sent 6 copies to the city. So just to summarize, again, I think all the questions you ask are good questions, and they're clearly answered in the information I've sent you. So the calculations below, in which you already have, show that over the next 10 years, my tenant will pay a total of $76,500 in fees for a system that I'm required by law not to use. This is assuming there are no further increases after 2028, which is unlikely. As required by City Condition of Approval dated December 4th, 2001, mitigation measures are required that mandated an infiltrator system to reduce offsite flows to pre-development rates. This is flagged and highlighted in your staff report, the city's architectural review and final mitigation measures, the mitigation monitoring program, and the stormwater runoff calculations cover sheet that you have. This retention system also required review and approval from Caltrans as a condition of the monitoring program. Is any minuscule amount that goes down the curb and gutter goes to a Caltrans approved retention system designed for that specific runoff. In 2016, I added an additional 15,000 square feet of impervious area. At the time, I was required to demonstrate that the existing system met the current standards and integrated a drainage system into the existing system to comply with this requirement. Part of the decision to require on-site retention for the parcels on Spring Hill Road can also be attributed to the longstanding position of Cal Fish and Game and their desire to protect the water quality of Spring Creek. When the building was built in 2002, an additional warehouse added in 2016, I was required, not elected, to retain all stormwater on site. At great expense, a retention system was constructed to accomplish it. Now it's suggested I pay to support a system that I'm required not to use in any capacity. It's clear the authors of this study kind of missed the boat on that one, as all parcels on Spring Hill Road are required to limit stormwater runoff to pre-development rates. Nothing drains into the system whatsoever. The justification for limitations of fees under 218 limit the degree to which they can custom tailor a stormwater fee program. This is only true to the extent that it limits differentiation of fees between parcels, as does not apply to parcels that don't use the system. Quote, 28C says, imposed for a service not used by or immediately available to the property owner. My parcel does not use stormwater system, nor is it immediately available. Therefore, it is exempt from any fee for storage. In fact, at $1 a month for the last 22 years, the city probably should refund me $255. Furthermore, 218 specifies that an assessment against any parcel may not exceed the reasonable cost or proportional special benefit conferred on the parcel. As there is no benefit, there can be no assessment. I'm a property owner also that lives outside of the city limits, so I can't vote, as I understand it. Thank you.
No.
Can I actually respond to this? Chris, can you submit, you said you submitted to the city. I haven't seen it. Can you send it to me directly?
Yes, I sent it as copies already.
To who?
Well, actually, the first one was one copy, and there were 6 tonight. Of course, there were 2 different. I can send you all.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay.
To your business email.
Yeah, please.
All right, well, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this subject? No. Is anyone with their hands raised online?
We have one hand raised, that will be Johanna.
All right, Johanna. Johanna is from Mount Shasta. Go ahead, Johanna.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I sent you a letter with some of my questions and thoughts to date, and I was actually kind of disappointed that the votes for tonight's meeting was made so difficult that you had to bring it in person with a wet signature, and that a PDF of a letter was not acceptable. It just seems that's a little counterproductive to getting community input, which I hear is so important to everyone. My letter would be a no vote, although I do believe we very much need a more equitable way to facilitate this this increase, because I do believe we need an increase. I believe that's certainly needed. And I benchmarked our plan with the city of San Mateo. The city of San Mateo has 130 miles of storm drain pipes and has only asked for an average large residential property of $9.92 a month. Yet Mount Shasta is asking, in the end, $28 a month. And it's essentially 3 times the cost for only approximately 10% of the pipes. And I put an Excel spreadsheet together with those percentages and amounts. I'd like to see a more graduated rate structure for Mount Shasta. The ERU calculation does not take into account the grade of the site or what the property currently uses. There are many properties that currently already drain into creeks or ditches. And also those creeks and ditches, we should be very well aware that those are waters of the US in many cases. Once it reaches Lake Siskiyou through Cold Creek and some of the other creeks, that's all waters of the US, so we want to be careful what we put in there. And I'd like to see a property by property analysis because not all properties are impacted the same way. The Prop 218, the intent is to give voters more of a say in the fees, not less. And specifically, one of the things I pointed out in my letter was that local governments must make sure that no property owner's fee is greater than the proportionate cost to provide the property-related service to his or her parcel. So unless we have a property by property assessment, which an aerial view may or may not provide because it does not take into consideration whether that property actually uses storm drain pipes or whether it uses just, you know, the groundwater. So anyway, it was very complicated to look into all of this. So I appreciate all the work that's being done on this. And those are my questions and comments. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Johanna. Any others? Once again, anyone in the audience would like to speak in this public hearing? All right, so we're going to close the public hearing and open up further discussion before we count the votes. Council members to my right, any comments? To my left? Okay, well, I have some comment. Oh, you got some? Go. Yep, go ahead.
Another one of the central themes of letters that I've gotten that are upset about this rate increase was also brought up by our last speaker, which is, why are we going from $1 a month to roughly $25 to $28 a month? And the answer is because we've basically done nothing for 40 plus years. $1 a month when we need millions of dollars of repair doesn't allow you to do anything. Maintenance was kicked down the road by previous councils, some of which I sat on, to be clear, and we're just at that time where we're going to pay for this one way or another. We're going to pay for it out of the general fund, which means a lot of services that we provide this community that it gives us sales tax, property tax, and hotel tax to run the city. And those services will have to go away because we're going to have to write large checks to fix things that have collapsed. And that is, people keep asking, well, why do we have this big increase? That's why. Excuse me, thank you.
Well, that was one thing I was going to say with respect to Johanna's comments about San Mateo. Did she say San Mateo?
Densities.
Well, they have more ratepayers, for one. Number two, they may have maintained the system better over time so that their need for investment was handled at a time when construction costs were lower. Thusly, the monthly rate, the base rate is lower than what we're asking for. So I'm just going to comment that this concept, this Prop 218 process really originated with a stormwater master plan put together by Civic Spark Fellows back in 2019, which they include eight projects in their list, but the overall improvements that might be needed do need some study, and the individual projects could go way beyond the 8, and then there's the overall constant maintenance of the system that is needed. 5 out of the 8 involve pretty much just pipe placement, such as on Washington Street, McLeod Avenue. I won't get into the details of where it will be and so forth, and there might need to be sidewalk construction, gutter, curb construction, road improvements to make the system work. So it could get very costly just on those 2. For some reason, Civic Spark Fellows thought that Forest Street was problematic, that little street on off of South Mount Shasta Boulevard. Ski Bowl, is it Drive over in the tract, has some problems. Everett Memorial is listed, but this is back in 2019, folks. It's not related, it's not as a possible project related to the current problems that we've experienced. And then there are three projects that may or may not involve some daylighting or naturalization or restoration of creeks, and that would be Castle Creek, Coal Creek, and Mill Pond Creek down at the south end of town. The extent to which there's some beautification done is open to study and so forth. But with respect to Johanna's comments about controlling what we put into creeks, into waterways of the United States, correct. One of the major causes of pollution in our waterways, creeks, rivers, streams, and so forth, now is from roadways, road oils, different sorts of metals that are on the roads get washed in, not so much trash and not so much sewage, because we've got that under control. Maybe not the trash, but definitely the sewage.
And asbestos from breaks.
Asbestos from breaks and pipes?
Yep.
Yeah, so you need to improve pipes. So anyhow, those are the projects mentioned in the Stormwater Master Plan from 2019. There could be deletions, there could be additions, and of course, the system in general has to be maintained. This study was done by Raftelis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They specialize in stormwater drain studies and projects. So I think we had the right people working on this 218 process. My final comments are to staff. I think it's important that you clarify who's getting the ballot, whether it's parcel owners and or ratepayers. Yeah, that would be important, because it sounds like just parcel owners would get this, but then what? Who would increase the rate on I'm a renter, so I don't.
The property owner would probably pass that cost along to you.
But then I would stay $1 on my municipal bill. Yeah, better clarify that. What do you think? So my rate wouldn't go up. I would just have a rental increase. I'm a renter, and I have a $1 fee for stormwater.
It would be whatever you have an arrangement with your landlord. If you're responsible for utilities, then that would increase with the rate increase.
No,
but I wouldn't vote on it?
Right?
That's my understanding. That's the last item.
Kind of want to vote on it. I will be voting in the affirmative, but yeah.
I would have a different understanding of the mechanics of that, because I cannot visualize, I don't think the city staff can visualize, a situation where anyone who has one or more renters contacts finance office and say, we've made an agreement between ourselves or amongst ourselves. I'm going to pay 1/3, the renter's going to pay 2/3, or renter's going to pay half, or I want to make sure that renter stays at $1 that would be a total nightmare for the city. It's unworkable. I would think that the $1 per month that all the tenants are paying
The rate, who are
probably
ratepayers would get a
probably
ballot.
would no longer exist. If the property owners
Can
are
I
paying.
weigh in, please? Thank you. So what happens is some property owners pay the city utilities. The renter doesn't even see the city bill. On the other hand, there have been agreements between renters and owners that the renter pays the city bill.
Utilities in general.
It's utilities.
Yeah.
So in your case, if your agreement between you and the property owner, the landlord, is that you pay for the utilities, then you pay for the utilities, you get the bill. Which would mean if there's an increase, that bill would show the increase.
Yeah.
Who votes?
Pardon me?
Do I get the ballot, or does the ratepayer get the ballot, or does the parcel owner
The
get the ballot?
impacted property owners. The reason we looked at it in-house and decided to do it that way is because we have all these different relationships between landlords and their tenants. And so it seemed to be easier on our end to put the onus on the property owner to then pass that cost along to the renter. And, whatever they want to work out, they work out. Maybe something changed after we've had this discussion with the front office staff.
I'm going to have
but-
to interrupt. I think it'd be much simpler to send ratepayers the ballot, just like we handle 218 processes. It's the ratepayers, whether they're renters or parcel owners. The ratepayers can protest. Ratepayers, I could protest this. So I'm just saying, be careful about who you're sending the ballots to. I know undeveloped parcels, yeah, sure, the parcel owner would pay that. In places where, and I think it's a majority of rental situations, the renters are already paying that $1 fee directly.
So I'll talk to our folks.
I
but-
would investigate that thoroughly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the situation comes up if there's a sixplex.
But they're all paying the rent, they're all paying different utility bills.
Mayor, is your utility bill in your name or the landlord? Yeah, I think it should go to whoever's receiving the invoice.
You don't want a situation where each of the tenants in a sixplex is paying the $25 a month.
Unless that was the arrangement.
Unless that's,
Unless that was the arrangement with tenant and landlord.
well, what if
They have individual utilities.
okay, all right. So,
So if this is unclear, staff needs to really investigate and clear this up, because in my case, I don't think you're gonna know who you'd have to go to End Plan to look up who the parcel owner is. I don't think the city's gonna know who the parcel owner is. They live in Wairika. So someone in Wairika is gonna vote on this. Yep.
Ref Telly's did all the work of looking up the property owners with our help. And so that's why, ultimately, if you own a property and you've got impervious surface, that is who is being sent the ballot. And, but I mean, I'll take a look again. I don't know if it's legal, but I'll get back to you.
Because if you do go that route, then the landlord, let's say this passes, the landlord decides to increase the rent to cover that, and I would no longer pay the $1 to the city directly. I think that's going to be complicated, because now you're going to have to collect from parcel owners for the drainage fee that you were previously collecting from ratepayers who or tenants?
Here's what I suggest we do. I'll find out, what the legality is of it and what our plan was to see if it's changed from my discussions with the front-end folks. And when the ballot goes out, it will be clear on, who these ballots go to and who can vote, who's supposed to vote. How about that?
Fine.
But yeah, we have to do that.
One comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to vote in support of the passage of this. Doing so, I would like to see that properties which cannot connect to the city sewer system or stormwater system have some sort of equitable exemption. And I understand that may come after the fact.
Right. All right, so I'm going to close this agenda item, go on to item number 9. So we'll recess to allow the deputy city clerk to count the protest votes or letters. We'll reconvene and go on to item number 10. And we've talked so much about this, I think we've pretty much handled number 10 at this point, but we'll do a quick review. All right. Let's break at 6:36. Get back together at about 6:40, 6:45?
This as quickly as I can, probably 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Go do your thing.
You can, yeah, I'm going to open envelopes for you.
reconvene at 6:47. Would the Deputy City Clerk review the results?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The total number of parcels included in the Stormwater Rate Prop 218 protest vote process is 1,636. There would need to be 819 protest votes to successfully protest the change in stormwater rates. There were 49 protest votes. This is not enough to successfully protest the rate increase.
Thank you very much, Kathy. So we go on to have a short discussion of next steps. We'll let the city manager go over that.
So based on our discussion about clarifying whether it's just property owners or whether it's individual ratepayers that are getting this, I'll clarify it with finance and admin tomorrow morning, and then make sure that we're doing it in accordance with the, that we're sticking to what's required through the 218 process with John Kenny, and then we'll mail out the ballots with the information on there on who exactly is getting these ballots and who can vote.
Very good. Any questions from council at this point? No. Does this particular agenda item have to go to public comment? All right. Well, then we'll move on to item number 11. Discussion and possible action, proposed addendum to the city manager's contract. I will introduce. So, city manager entered into a contract with the city, I believe it was in the fall of 2021. It's a 5-year arrangement. Would you agree, Todd? 5-year deal, 2021?
Yeah.
All right, so it runs till 2026. In the first year or two, there were scheduled rate pay increases, from what I recall. Is that correct, Todd? And
it was a pay increase of 1% per year through the life of the contract.
okay. Yeah, we must have, then we approved an additional amount, did we not?
Yes, last year.
All right, so we're here to discuss pay increase for 2024 of $15,000, and effectively that would be retroactive or would be covered with from next pay period going forward to the end of the year, and then another pay increase for 2025. So, Todd, is that the agenda item from your mind? As
Yeah,
stated?
that's what we discussed. It was, if you guys approve this, then it would go retroactively to when the second year was done, which is in.
As long as we're on the same page. All right, very good.
Yep.
So clarifying questions from council. Go ahead.
I would just ask how you came up with the dollar amount and why the timing and that sort of thing. So we
Well,
have the facts.
actually, I'll answer that. That's something we discussed. I can't remember exactly when. Was it near the end of last year?
I
In
believe
public?
it was introduced at council after the performance review
Right.
post. Yeah.
And the performance review was in November or December?
It was
October?
The end of the second year was in November, but we didn't do it until January.
Okay, so it's the beginning of this year. Thank you for remembering all those details. Go ahead.
Are we in discussion or questions?
Questions? We're going to go to public comment here now.
Well, let me ask. Was it your understanding that your 1% increase in your contract was for all 5 years or just the first two and then negotiated after that?
It was 1% per year for the life of the contract.
I'm looking at your contract.
Okay.
It's just for the first 2 years and negotiated after that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I remember, but thank you, Jeff, for pulling it up. Okay. So, we're negotiating, okay. Tim, question?
All right, the way the agenda item reads is increase the city manager's salary in the amount of $15,000 in 2024, an additional $15,000 in 2025. So for the public's benefit, can you clarify, is this to be $15,000 over and above the existing salary for 2024, and then in 2025 it would be $15,000 over and above the 2024 salary plus the 15 with another 15?
That's my understanding
So basically, in 2025, it'd be a $30,000 increase.
from where we are now.
Okay.
So it should read, oh, an additional, yeah, it does. Okay, more questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
Is there any way we can just table this? Because I feel like with our closed session meeting that we had, any comments I make towards this is going to be based on what we just had with closed session comments that I can't reveal. And I'm worried about the.
Do you want to
overlap
move
on
to
this.
table this before public discussion?
Yes.
Public comment?
Just because I feel like a lot of what I got to say, I can't say because we just said it in closed session. And I don't want to violate that. I'm just asking
Okay,
for the
so-
technicality on it, really. This is just, I don't want to
We can,
break any
ta-
rules.
we can postpone, table, reschedule an item at any time, I assume, and during the agenda item.
I would second that.
Kathy?
Just because I can't say what I want to say without violating the closed session.
Well, maybe you can, and that's why I want to, can I ask Kathy a question?
No, I can't with what I'm going to say, I can't.
No, no,
asking if
he's going to ask her a question.
Oh, okay.
We had a closed session before this meeting. And a lot of the commentary was very specific, but some of it was general in nature. Just because it was said generally in nature, discussing our financial situation here in the city, that's public information, our financial situation here in the city. And it can be brought up in, even if that was discussed in a closed session, that can also be brought up here because it's public information.
General, not specific commentary, absolutely.
If I understand correctly, there is a motion and a second on the floor to continue this matter?
Yes, yes.
that
Well, I
correct?
didn't officially make the motion, no.
Oh,
I was just asking if it's possible to do that because of, like I said,
no,
any of the
you didn't-
because any of the comments we talk about are going to go past the general comments that were made at the same meeting.
the mayor indicated it is possible, so are you making a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion then to table this for further discussion.
I think that we have enough information that we can generally discuss to see this item through. To vote on the item.
I'll second the motion to table.
Okay. Discussion? When would you like to
Yeah.
postpone this till?
Well, I guess
The same as,
to whenever we're done with what we talked about in the closed session meeting can come up.
So your motion is to table indefinitely pending and bring it back.
I don't know if it would have indefinitely or a month, but I just feel like with what we have talked about in closed session, any comments are going to come back and violate that.
Okay, so.
I would suggest the December 2020,
What?
December of this year would be a relatively good timeline.
Oh, well, I don't think we kind
Tim's
of,
picking up what I'm throwing.
Would you, so is your motion to table indefinitely not?
I guess it would be
No
table
later
it
than
in-
December 2024,
I think we can handle it maybe before December.
and it might be
Just
handled-
based on our comments.
and it could be brought back up as circumstances warrant.
And I feel like my comments will get me in trouble for violating something in a closed session.
No, is that your motion? Because if that's your clarified motion, I will second the clarified motion.
Okay, yes,
all
that
right,
is
so the
clear.
motion is to
Table
table
indefinitely.
indefinitely with the possibility of rescheduling sooner.
Correct.
And you have
Yeah,
you second that.
to table
Yes.
to not later than December with the understanding that it could be brought back sooner.
I think we can bring it back
based upon
sooner, but I just don't
circumstances.
think it's
Yeah.
working right now
Yeah.
with
Got it.
possibility of violating comments.
All right, so if we table this, Kathy, then obviously the agenda item ends with that vote. All right, any further discussion on this? All right, Todd, I'm sorry, but things are getting a bit,
Well, and there is nothing that, with tabling, there's nothing that would prevent retroactive.
right.
Should things, yeah.
All right,
So
all those in,
second.
yeah, Kathy's got that. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Tabling it?
Tables. Okay, aye.
And opposed?
And opposed? Opposed. Vote is clear, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Outside meetings, we already talked about Lola. I have not been to a Collier Interpretive Center meeting, and all things considered, I'm going to add a future agenda item that should be dealt with soon. I would like the pay increase for city council to be postponed till the next appropriate council. That the current one is set to increase this November, December, would be December, the pay rate.
Council members are seated, correct?
Yeah, so I'd like to bring up for vote to postpone that or amend that if we're allowed.
You'd have to amend the ordinance.
Yes, so that's the future agenda item, to amend that to 2 years into the future. Oh, wait a minute, our agenda, our councils, they're 2-year councils or they're 2 years, right?
2 years.
Yeah,
Well, the terms are 4 years, but
But
there's a
every-
vote every 2 years.
right. So basically,
So in order to amend that ordinance, you would have to basically change what the council's compensation is. That's how you would amend it. So you can't just push it off for 2 years. You'll have to amend it to
back
maybe
to the
go
original
back to
amount?
what it was
Just
before.
keep the
or-
same, yeah, that's fine. Let's bring that up, go ahead.
And the mayor has the right to put items on future agendas without a second.
Right, that's what I'm doing. All right, any other, we're trying not to add too many of these, but I don't have any other ones. Nobody, no? All right. So it is currently 7 o'clock. I'm going to ask for adjournment. Any protests to that? Okay. Meeting adjourned.